is it that some photos appeal more to the eye than others. Two photographs can be taken of the same thing, yet one may catch your interest more than the other. There are no set rules in photography, but there are guidelines that can be followed to make photographs more appealing. These guidelines are referred to as the principles of photo composition. When I was a freshman in high school, I took my first photography class, where I learned some of these basic guidelines that I've been practicing ever since. Today, I want to share my knowledge on photo composition with you. I would like to show you how to apply photo composition principles such as the rule of thirds, shallow depth of field, and contrast to photos and how to maintain these skills. Your subject should always be clear, but that doesn't always mean placing your subject in the center of the photo. By using the rule of thirds, you can mentally create a grid on your frame, like tic-tac-toe, to place your subject off-center. This is an example of rule of thirds because by creating a tic-tac-toe grid, they placed the insect's head on one of the intersections. That way it's not right in the middle. After applying the rule of thirds to your photo, you may be left with a lot of empty space, which is also called negative space. This has a lot of negative space. They used rule of thirds, but then they were left with a lot of sky. If you aren't happy with the negative space in your photo, you may want to try the photo composition principle of balance. When trying to use balance, you can often refer to your screen as a seesaw that you are trying to make the weight balance on. By using balance, you're filling the empty space with another object. This is an example of balance because both sides are equal with the amount that they have on it. Most often, it is more favorable to take photos at an angle instead of straight in front of the subject. Techniques such as bird's eye view and worm's eye view can often make your photos more exciting. A bird's eye view is a photograph taken up high, looking down at the subject. This is an example of bird's eye view because they're looking down on the couple like a bird would. A worm's eye view is a photograph taken from down low, looking up at the subject. This is an example of worm's eye view because from down low they're looking up at the flowers, just like a worm would. There are also different angle techniques such as tilting, which is commonly used today. The angle of a photograph often makes it more dramatic. Emphasis and drama can also be achieved by using depth. Adding depth to your photo will lead the eye into your photograph. Shallow depth of field is used to make either the foreground, middle, or background the only part of the photo that is in focus. Depending on how complex your camera is, shallow depth of field is easier to accomplish by changing your aperture settings. A larger aperture, which is indicated by a smaller f number, will help you get shallow depth of field. This is an example of shallow depth of field because the lock is the only thing in focus and everything behind it is still blurry. Deep depth of field is used to make everything in the photo clear. This is often found in landscape photography. Aperture settings also affect the results you will get in deep depth of field. Instead of using a smaller f number like in shallow depth of field, you will use a larger f number, which will get you a smaller aperture. This is an example of deep depth of field because everything in the photo is still in focus. Framing, leading lines, and contrast are all used to improve the quality of a photo. Framing is placing your subject so it is being framed by something else, helping to focus on the subject. This is an example of framing because the kid is framed by the curve. Leading lines is the use of lines to either lead the eye to the focal point or possibly out of the image. An author on photographymad.com described leading lines by saying, "It is almost as if the lines are leading us through the picture on a journey." This is an example of leading lines because the field is leading to the windmill in the background. Most often, high contrast is desired in photographs to make the subject appear more dramatically. High contrast is accomplished by being aware of the color characteristics in your subject and the surroundings. Colors with different characteristics are often placed together because they contrast greatly when placed side by side. This is an example of contrast because the bright red and the green in the background have different color characteristics. That way the flower pops more. Maintaining and practicing these photography skills will help improve your photography. Since these are not rules, only guidelines, you should still be creative and have fun with your photos. Just like in sports, jobs, or anything else you do, the more you practice, the better you will get and the happier you will be with your results. I have shared with you how to apply only a few photo composition guidelines to your photos. When you apply these guidelines to your photography, your photos will become more engaging and pleasing. Next time you are out taking pictures, be sure to practice these guidelines and be creative to get the favored results you are looking for.